Hello and welcome to the 14th episode of Studies in Shadow. I am your host, Jack Rogers, and as always, I am joined by my... insert compliment, what should I say?
I was going to say something, but that would be inappropriate. I was going to say,
inappropriate
No!
Noah Bazoo.
I'm not. I promise. Wow, that's a really big spike in loudness in our podcast. No, I am the... What does Mushu say?
You're talking about the dragon from Mulan?
Yeah, dude. When he first meets Mulan,
I'm a
he's
dragon.
like, I am the unstoppable, the incomprehensible, the indestructible Mushu. He walks out.
It's been years since I've even seen that movie.
And he gets stomped on by a horse.
Nice. It's been years since I've seen that movie, so I can't quote anything.
My favorite Disney movie.
Other than like Girl We're Fighting For, and that's it.
I also say that because in one of my classes we had a poll, and it was like, what two Disney characters would so and so be? So and so be. So and so be. We all did it.
Mine was Merida and Hades.
I can see the Hades definitely. Just like how you're you're so like calm sometimes, and you just snap.
Just in video games.
Did I tell you what I was? I think I did. They were like Flynn Rider because he's so suave, but nice. Mushu because he's like totally nuts. And I was like, they're like, he can be really suave, but then he can totally get into a situation where he's like, I can take it, and then he gets stomped on by a horse. So I'm like, you watched my weekend, didn't you?
Anyway,
we're back.
Despite the beginning of this episode, we are not talking about Disney or China, because this episode is all about the Bermuda Triangle. Dun, dun, dun. You've probably heard the name before. I'll give you the geographical. I was going to say geological. The geographical location of the Bermuda Triangle. It doesn't start, but there is a point at the very southern tip of Florida. It goes to Bermuda and then to Puerto Rico. But depending on who you ask, the actual size of the Bermuda Triangle changes. So the estimated ranges are anywhere between 500,000 to 1,510,000 square miles, or 1.3 kilometers kilometers squared.
Yes.
Square kilometers.
Yes.
To 3.9 million kilometers squared. It's a pretty big difference. So it looks like, I mean, you look at pictures online and you're like, how can people not measure this? But people estimate the different points to be in varying places. So that's where all the confusion comes from.
Different points meaning...
So you look at a map, and it has the triangle.
Yeah.
But if you looked at a map with all the different triangles that people estimate...
Oh, like different points in the triangle facing different ways?
Well, it's not like turning so much, but just kind of the angles. And it's like a really big myriad of points in this one concentrated area for each point. So it could be a number of different sizes.
But matter of fact, it's in this certain spot.
It's in this region. Go to the middle of the triangle and you're definitely in the triangle.
I think that's most things. Go to the middle of this and you're in it. That's
your Noah nugget of wisdom right there.
No.
Guys, when you're in the middle of something, you're in it.
That's actually really good advice, though. Eye of the hurricane, you're in it. This is probably a duh thing, but it's called the Devil's Triangle. I thought that was really cool.
Isn't that also... That's just a nickname, right?
Yeah, it's a nickname.
Just checking.
But I was like, when did it come up with that? And it was like, actually kind of recently. I say recently, like 2001, maybe earlier.
My brother wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, but neither was mine. But they call it that, and because of what we'll talk about, and because of what the majority of people know about the Bermuda Triangle, that it's like this really mystical place.
Yes, the Bermuda Triangle.
Yes, the Bermuda Bangle. I mean, anyway, Devil's Triangle, and you can figure out why we call it that yourself, and it's not a really big stretch to see why, because it's so messed up.
There's lots of fun stuff that happens there. So I went pretty chronologically in my research.
Did you say fun stuff? I'm just kidding.
Did I?
Yeah, you said fun stuff, and I was like,
Dude, I just say that about everything, man.
Oh man, we're going to die. Just kidding.
I met a woman once, and like she lost the tip of her finger in a car accident. I was like, fun stuff. And everybody looked at me, and I was like, never mind. It's sad. I'm sorry. It's just something I say.
It's sad. That's what.
But anyway, kind of the earliest recorded event or recorded account of something happening in the area of the Bermuda Triangle is actually with Columbus, Christopher Columbus.
Who sailed the ocean blue in 1492.
I was in a history class once, and so I was like, well, how does that song go? Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1982. And I looked at her, and I was like, brown isn't your real hair color, is it? She's like, how'd you know? I was like, no reason.
Yes.
But that was really funny. I was like, yes, this country was founded very shortly after 1982. Things
years
happened
ago.
real fast. Like, I can't even make
So
any more
Columbus.
jokes about that. So Columbus. So I got this quote from history.com. I based a little bit of my research from history.com, and then if something looked really interesting, I would go somewhere else to confirm it.
Ditto.
Or see that it was, multiple sources. If there were multiple sources. I can speak. I'm good.
You got this.
Multiple sources. Okay, so here's what they say. Quote, when Christopher Columbus sailed through the area on his first voyage to the New World, he reported that a great flame or fire, probably a meteor, crashed into the sea one night, and a strange light appeared in the distance a few weeks later. Close quote. You can find that at history.com. So.
Whoa. That's wild.
It's not a super huge... You didn't see that when you looked up?
No, I did, but I just had like a thought about the video you sent me today about the ship and the fact that they talked about large balls of fire as well.
Oh, Orang Medan?
Yeah, and I was just thinking of the parallel.
Foreshadowing to next week?
Yeah. But no, just like talking about it, like it's in the same same ocean, Atlantic, the Atlantic.
Yes.
And so it talks about in that sailors in history talk about seeing large balls that look like balls of fire that fall into the sea.
And there's reasons for that.
Yeah,
there's scientific kind of explanations for that.
Whether it's meteors or something else, it's just interesting how Columbus talks about it.
Massive sea farts.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not super wrong. We'll go into that later. That was based on a real piece of information I found.
Jack Jeopardy do you believe right now? In case you need to know.
Is that your version of a nugget of knowledge?
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Okay. So what's the earliest point that you found things happening? Because if it's later than Shakespeare, I'll just keep going.
Oh, no. Shakespeare was the Shakespeare talks about the Tempest. That's one of the biggest things about it.
Yeah.
That's where I went back to at that point. I was like, okay, before
yeah, that's where I start too.
Things were kind of sketchy.
Okay, so you talk about the Tempest then.
I mean,
did you write anything down?
I did. I just gotta find it. I mean, William Shakespeare's play The Tempest is just like a lot of people. You can read it and be like, wow, this is a really awesome play. Or you can look at it and be like, wow, this sounds like a real life story of the Bermuda shipwreck.
Well, did you see
Yes.
the actual event?
Yeah.
Did you write down the details?
Not all of them.
I wrote them down.
I figured you did. Yeah.
Thank you.
Because you told me what you did. I was like, okay, I got this.
Nice. Okay, so here's the deal that happened. Before Shakespeare wrote the play, because he's not a fortune teller, 9 ships planned to sail from England to my beautiful last home state of Virginia. But a massive storm in what is now labeled I can speak. Gosh dang it. The Bermuda Triangle. So a massive storm hit in the area of the Bermuda Triangle. One of the ships, it's called the Sea Adventure, got lost from the rest of the fleet and then shipwrecked in Bermuda. And then when word reached England, it is said that Shakespeare gained the inspiration to write The Tempest. And then I actually looked at the synopsis of The Tempest at playshakespeare.com. It says, a ship carrying Alonso, King of Naples, his son Ferdinand, Antonio, and other nobles is wrecked in a storm created by the spirit Ariel, under the magic art of Prospero. Prospero's daughter, Miranda, afraid for the voyagers, is told that they are safe. And I said, I have no idea what any of that meant other than the shipwreck. So that's cool. And then it gained more popularity, more notoriety and infamy in the early 20th century.
Yeah. This is kind of a random thought going back. Do you know how many things have gone missing, quote unquote?
A lot.
50 ships and 20 airplanes.
Nice.
It doesn't sound like that much when you put it that way, but it's actually a lot of people.
Think of all the people that were on those ships.
Yeah, exactly.
Those
huge
people
cruise
had
liners.
Wives and children.
So, reports, this is like one of the things I found about, I'm sure you've seen this too. Mm-hmm. Reports of like unexplained occurrences started happening in like there's like a lot of speculation, the mid 19th century.
I was going to say like 1850s is where you see a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's same thing, yeah. Some ships they would find, talking about the Bermuda Triangle, you'd find them and they'd be completely abandoned for no reason. There'd be other ships that didn't have any distress signaled to them, even though like they had full capabilities to do so. And there were just some ships that were just never heard from again. Yeah. Aircraft have been reported to vanish, and rescue missions like
went after them and then also
Yeah,
vanished?
they won't have to say. I was like, how do I phrase this nicely? They got lost too, and they didn't show back up.
Yeah.
And then there's never any wreckage found. And
Yeah.
they have found sunken ships in that portion of like the sea, but at the same time, if you go anywhere in the ocean and like relatively close to continents to land,
Yeah.
you're gonna find sunken ships, whether it's from
yeah.
war or other things.
Yeah,
It
I
just
actually have some
happens.
pretty cool because at the certain points there's very concentrated natural phenomena natural phenomena.
Yeah, no, you
that
had
sounds weird to say. Natural phenomena.
It's just weird because, like, for all the things they talk about, this is just my last thing I'll say about this. It's just weird because, like, of all the things they say about, they've never found an airplane wreckage within, I forget how many hundreds of miles they said around the triangle. They've never found anything like that. And for all the ships that have sunk, they've only found 3 or 4 that aren't the ships that sunk, like older ships. From,
Interesting.
Like, way back. So
Viking
the actual
ships.
things never came back.
So one of the biggest things that happened in the Bermuda Triangle was in March of 1918. Did you look at this one? The USS Cyclops?
Yes.
Okay. So the USS Cyclops was a cargo ship that was over 500 feet long and had more than 300 men on board. It went missing. It supposedly sank. They were I don't know why this fact is important. They were carrying 10,000 tons of manganese. Do you know what manganese is?
Metal.
No.
I'm just kidding. No.
That's magnesium.
Yeah, I know.
It's just a nutritious mineral.
Yeah.
It's found in
Isn't it found in
nuts
plants
and
and stuff?
seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know why they were carrying so much, but anyway,
People gotta eat.
the weird thing is nobody ever received an SOS. One
word?
just didn't go out.
Oh.
Now that could be due to electrical fields and whatnot, but seriously, a massive ship like that doesn't have the capability to communicate.
With being staffed by more than 300 people.
I mean,
someone's going to get to the button. You hope.
I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, like, if somebody did press the button, which I would think that they would, unless they all blew up at once.
Yeah. Foreshadowing.
Shouldn't the... That's for next week.
Yeah, exactly.
Shouldn't
Foreshadowing.
Shouldn't the, signal be strong enough to get out of that?
I mean, it's 1918. Like, this...
But it's just radio technology.
I know, but even
radio
still,
technology did improve in, like, World War II.
Like, this is what? This is, like, Morse code in this time?
I don't know.
Or is it even just, like, a signal? Did they not have Morse code yet?
It's World War I.
I don't know when they invented Morse code. That's not
Way
something I
before that,
remember.
I think.
So, did they not have Morse
No,
code?
wait. So they did use Morse code in war to communicate. One of the president's wife, a wife of a president, actually got like really good at Morse code during World War II. I think it was like Eisenhower's wife or something. Mm-hmm. But still,
Yeah.
like, it's crazy.
But anyway, what I was going to say is Morse code is like one of those things that like, it's really reliable in the sense that there's not too many things that like, because it's on a basic frequency, there's not much that kind of inhibits it. Like nowadays you have like, cell phones and all this kind of like stuff, and it's so powerful, but you see how quickly Wi-Fi can be disturbed by the smallest thing. It's because the frequency is not, that crazy powerful. Morse code is very precise, very, very
Direct.
loud. Yeah. And so there's not many things that can
that was
keep
SOS,
it from...
I think.
Yeah, so it's 3 long, 3 short, 3 long.
Oh, I did 3 short, 3.
You're good. But there's not many things that can keep it from going out long distances. It's pretty potent
Interesting.
as a source.
Potent.
So anyway, in that time, I guarantee they had Morse code and other things. It's kind of like what happened at that point.
Yeah. So the USS Cyclops actually had 2 sister ships.
Oh.
Kind of same model, I guess.
Triclops?
Apparently. They both went missing in 1941. Okay, now we are talking about really, really,
Really
good
good,
radio
Yeah.
technology that hasn't changed much in like 75 years. And they were going the same way. And they just, poof, gone. Fun stuff, right?
Bye-bye. Like the city of Enoch, just gone.
Yeah. And then, I'll let you tell the story of the next one because it's probably one of the most notorious ones. Flight 19 in 1945. Did you look that one up?
I did.
You didn't write anything down about it?
I wrote some very basic things, but I'll let you get... Do you know what President Woodrow Wilson was the one who was taught... Well, he was the president at the time when the Cyclops went down.
Yeah.
Do you know what he said in an address about it?
I read it, but I didn't write it down.
He said, only God and the sea know what happened to the great ship, which is kind of like deep, but at the same time, it's like the ocean.
Huh.
But it's also kind of like crazy that he just, it's one of those things where it's like kind of foreboding and kind of like creepy. He's just like, we don't know. Like, it's just gone.
Yeah.
So
It's just gone.
that's kind of intense. Why don't you start with the story?
Okay,
Since you have way more detail and I have a little bit less. I have more of like a scattered variety of things, and you seem to have, like you said, more of a chronological thing. So go for it.
I went historical in this biznitch. Anywho, so December 1945. Flight 19 was flying, they were either flying out of Fort Lauderdale. No, they were flying to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So the southern tip of Florida. Dun, dun, dun. It was 1945, and it was 5 Navy bombers, and there were 14 men total. And this was in December, and it was apparently a really, really sunny, nice day. Like, pretty clear. And they got lost, and their equipment kept malfunctioning, and their visibility all of a sudden was like nothing. And later that day, a rescue plane was sent out, along with 13 men inside, and it also went missing.
Rip.
Do you want to know what the official Navy report states?
Drunk driving? I'm sorry.
Excuse me, it's drunk flying, sir.
I haven't mentioned that yet.
So they said that it was, quote, as if they had flown to Mars.
Word.
Yeah. So I think I saw this quote where the people on Flight 19 just, at first they were like, we have no idea where we're going. We can't see. The ocean looks different. That kind of weird freaking stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just gone. And then the rescue plane, just like with the ships, went after, gone. Thanos snap.
So one of the things that I found about that as well is, this is just one of those little tidbits that's kind of interesting. Obviously, at this point, they have pretty good technology. Right? Mm-hmm. Duh. Mm-hmm. And so you can, just kind of like it is now, you can send signals to and from the plane from air traffic control or from the base and vice versa. And the signals that went from the plane to like the flight control from Florida were really unique in the sense that, it's sort of like a domino effect. When one thing breaks on a plane, something else, like if let's say that, the rotor
like
breaks.
A Christmas tree light.
Yeah, when one thing breaks, it's very, very systematic what's going to happen next. So it's kind of helpful to see this is messing up, which helps pilots be like, okay, if this is going to fail soon, we have to be able prepared to do this. Because either step 1 or step 2 is going to ruin it, or by step 3, we're totally toast. It's really helpful with that. That's actually really interesting. I'm going to look more into that. But just how it breaks down systematically. Mm-hmm. And it didn't do that. And there's not many. I looked this up because it was really interesting. Because I was like, okay, well, how often does that happen? It doesn't happen very often that it happens in the reverse order. It almost never happens like that. Oh. And it did. Yeah. The signal came back. I'm not exactly sure what it would say on the panel, but it talks about how a light lit up, and one of the flight control operators says, well, that just doesn't, that just must be not make sense. It's a malfunction. And they were like radioed in. They were just like,
it's a function, all right.
Yeah, they were like, Flight 19, come in here. We're going to talk about this. And they're just like, please,
we can't see.
Please look at the left. It basically says they asked them to look at the module and tell them what was on it. And it was like, the light on this is on. And they were like, do you have anything that would recognize that that's actually true? And they were like, XYZ, this is happening. And then another thing happened. And basically the plane started it went, instead of from the rotors to the engine to the navigation, it went from navigation to rotors to engine, or engine to rotors.
And they just flew until they ran out of gasoline.
Yeah. But it's just weird because it didn't happen randomly. It happened in complete order, opposite
in the
of what
wrong way.
Always
in the unorthodox way, I should say.
And once again, I looked it up how many times it happens, and a lot of sources say that it happened less than 20 times in history of recorded flights, in terms of it breaking down that way. So I was like, that's really cool, but it's also kind of like, oh, poor guys, sorry about that, chief. That's rough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all the notes I have on that. It was really hard to find an official transcript. About an official transcript of what the communication was. Mm-hmm. Like a dialogue. Yeah. And I found something, and I was like, oh, I'm going to totally, read this. But it was from a book.
Yeah.
I was like, gosh dang it, that would have been cool.
The stuff I found was all, secondhand quotes, but they were, very, very stern about the fact that it happened this way. And I was like, okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
But we pretty much just told that exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So. Secondhand sources.
Yeah, and then below that in my notes, I just put the Wikipedia page. Let's put a link in that in the in our website, studiesinShadow.com. So they can take a look at that as well. We'll
Buy
also
the merch.
link the.
I'm just kidding.
We don't have merch yet.
For both.
Also, we'll put the history.com link.
Of course.
So that's where the most infamous things stop in my notes, and then it goes on to the many theories of the Bermuda Triangle. So before I go on to that, do you have?
I really want to talk about the theories.
Do you have any other stories though in your notes? Because I want to cover all of that before we go to theories.
Yeah, I know there were just a couple other things where it just talked about. What was the ship called? There wasn't really that big of a deal with this ship. I mean,
it only disappeared.
Yeah, well, basically the ship. I can't remember what it was called. It was the HMS, so it's Her Majesty's ship. So it's from the UK, and this was back in 1956. It says. Yeah, 1956. And this ship of no consequence, it was just a cargo freighter, just transferring stuff, disappeared. And then people saw it in the Atlantic. Or not in the Atlantic, in the Pacific a week later. Which would have been really, really impossible. Because you couldn't, even with that speed of that ship, it couldn't have gotten to the Pacific in any direction in a week.
Around.
And it was just I think... People saw it in Central America. They talked about how there was the ship off the coast, and then they go, look, nothing's there.
So it's a ghost ship.
Well, it was there, but there's nobody on it. So yeah, but it was just interesting how they were this was it was supposed to go from whether it was the UK to America or the UK to South America, Brazil, whatever it was, and it didn't show up. And then a week later, it's in the Pacific, which if you look at a map, transferring from the Atlantic to the Pacific is a very hard thing to go around.
Unless the Earth is flat, they just jumped it.
Hey,
don't look at me like that.
Flat earthers are a legit thing. I'm just kidding.
Millions of families suffer every year.
More like 6. Flat Earth syndrome. Anyway, but no, that was just kind of crazy to me because and this is the big thing that really bugged me is there's so many books and stories and people telling their own things and renditions of oh, this happened. People just make up their own stories. And it was so tough to find actual credible information about that. But no, I'm good to talk about some of the theories because I'm really excited to talk about that. Because I'm totally down to break it down.
Do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
I was trying to see where Amelia Earhart crashed, and that was in the Pacific, so wrong ocean. Oh. That would have been interesting to talk about. So I wrote all of the supernatural theories first, and I didn't even really give explanations for them. Because
word? I got this. I got some realistic ones. You go first.
No, I have realistic ones too, and that's all. That's the most of the ones that I have explanations
You're
on.
Lame. All right, let me do some realistic ones.
Excuse me, sir.
You do some supernatural ones because I have just realistic ones because I thought those were.
Are you just gonna list them off or talk about them?
Let's talk about them and list them off. Yeah.
Okay, because it's only gonna take me 2 seconds to read off all the supernatural ones.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Show me one. I want to know.
All right. So
besides what I already know.
1, aliens. Because of course,
dude. We can't build pyramids. People can't make shapes that way. Humans can't lift rocks.
What?
I'm just kidding. That's what people sound like when they're like, the aliens built the pyramids. It's not because the Egyptians had slave labor.
I mean, there are some pretty interesting statistics with the pyramid, the exact measurements and whatnot. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. Time warps. I watched this I didn't watch. I saw the first 15 minutes of this amazingly awesome, campy, not that great movie that I actually really enjoyed.
Called?
I don't know what it was called, but it's a passenger plane, right? Like a Boeing in modern times. They fly over the Bermuda Triangle, and they time travel to, guess when?
2005?
Nope, World War II.
Oh, good times.
And so suddenly they're in the sky when there's air raids happening.
Oh my god!
You have to radio it. We're from 2012. Oh, I was like, this is such.
Is it a comedy?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm
like, this is such an interesting concept. So you wouldn't expect that, but anyway, this one doesn't sound as crazy. I'd like to see more of the science of this, but gravitational anomalies.
Huh?
Gravitational anomalies. So gravity being weird and sinking stuff.
Oh.
Or messing with instruments and direction and whatnot.
I was like, anomalies. It just gravity gets more intense there. And it just
Anomalies
weighs you
could
down.
mean anything. Maybe it
you
got
got-
really like light and the ship just floated.
You got 10,000 tons of manganese, so probably gonna make you float.
The clouds were like, give me that manganese.
I got a nutrients the clouds.
And this is my favorite one, sorcery.
Oh,
So we're going back into the Tempest here.
obviously it was the what's Wingardium Leviosa.
Wingardium Leviosa.
It was just some-
Why is the ship
The Somali
lifting?
pirates went to Hogwarts.
Hogwarts.
Thanks, J.K. Rowling.
Look at me. I am the wizard
I
now.
am Gandalf now. Not Gandalf. I'm so dumb. I freaking just watched Lord of the Rings.
He's still a wizard. It's okay.
Yeah, I know. Here's one for you. One hypothesis. I'm sorry, folks. I am massaging my eyes right now. I just came back from swim practice not too long ago.
And there's too much chlorine in the pool.
There's too much chlorine in the pool. It's really hard to keep my eyes open. It's really uncomfortable. I'm crying. One hypothesis is that a pilot, they kind of failed to, account for the agonic line. You ever heard of that? The agonic line. The place at which where there's
the
no
true
need to
north-
compensate.
True north
Yeah.
and magnetic north, there is a small strip where
Yeah.
it's perfectly aligned.
There's no
yeah.
need to compensate for magnetic compass
that's-
variation.
So that's a rational explanation.
So,
for that.
they're just going through there, and the compasses all go nuts, and all kinds of, like you said, instruments kind of go wild,
Yeah.
and it just is just a pilot malfunction. There's that video, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but a pilot's talking about vertigo. You talked about this. There was this
I've seen videos with people talking about vertigo.
so this is like, for those of you who have never flown a plane before, which may be a large majority of our audience,
I haven't flown a plane before.
there's this thing called vertigo, and there's a lot of ways you can get it, but mostly it's like a flying thing. And there's this story. It's not even a story. It's a factual thing. There's a guy who is from it's from France. I was gonna say Germany. It's not Germany. It's from France. And he was a really good pilot. This was just back in 1960, 1950, something like that. And he would fly his plane, and he was a daredevil. He'd do all the stunts and stuff like that. And people thought it was really cool. And he would always see how close he could get to the trees without hitting them,
nice.
because he'd die, which he did inevitably die.
I'm sorry.
No,
That's sad.
He would it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm gonna walk near the edge of this volcano just because I can. But anyway,
Sounds good to me.
He did end up crashing, and one of the reasons they say that was the case is because there was a bit of clouds at that point. And even when you do have instruments, pilots who aren't the most experienced, or even ones that are fairly experienced, in clouds, up might not always feel like up.
Oh, that's what they explain in Ender's Game.
Yeah, and down might not always feel like down. So a lot of pilots who've not crashed, but they've experienced this, will be flying through clouds. And that's why a lot of the time when you have a lead pilot in fighter formation, they say stay in tight when they go through clouds, because the lead plane probably is the most experienced guy who knows what's happening, and the other guys are either less experienced or don't know at all what to do. So he's just just keep your right wing on my left wing, and we'll be fine. Anyway,
Just don't crash into me, please.
yeah, they can see each other, obviously, but it's just because for all the instruments you have, you still sometimes your perception of up.
Your brain betrays you.
Yeah, and you're up is up, or up is not down, or something like that, and you just crash.
You're right. Up is not down.
Yeah, it's not. It's your nugget of knowledge. Da-da-da-da-da-da. But that's just one of the other things that I read about people with vertigo, and maybe there's just between the clouds or between not having instruments working correctly, it's a recipe for disaster.
Nice.
So, I mean, yeah.
Let's talk about sea farts.
Talk about rogue waves.
No, sea farts.
Tell me about those.
Massive. Okay, so people
Here's the
believe
foreshadowing we talked about.
People believe that methane gas rises under the surface of the Bermuda Triangle, and these massive bubbles or spaces of methane will rise up, and what it does is
it's basically just air, right? Giant air pockets. Isn't that kind of what the
very
gas would
smelly
be?
air pockets. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's lighter than air.
Yeah.
Well, it's lighter than water. So what happens is,
Yeah.
as these massive clouds or bubbles of methane rise up, it actually pushes water away from the boat.
Huh.
So all of a sudden, imagine you're on a boat, and then a massive bubble just comes up, and suddenly it's just air on your right side, and you just fall in. Oh. And then you sink.
That's tough.
Right?
I was gonna make a joke. You said how methane rises from the bottom and goes up in the ocean. I was gonna make a joke about methane in my sheets because I fart a lot.
Why do you think I called it sea farts? I made the joke before you did.
No, I know, but I was like, rises from the bottom of the seafloor, more like rises through the sheets.
We definitely needed to know that you fart a lot in your bed. I mean everybody does.
Pretty much to say.
Let's move on! It also can rise into the air, obviously, and it affects plane instruments. It just messes with them, right? Because it compromises the atmosphere. We're going to stop talking about sea farts now and move on to the next thing.
Oh, no.
I hate you so much right now.
The dirty bubble from SpongeBob is what took out the planes. He just floats up. He's like, so long, suckers. He gets them.
So long, USS Cyclops. And your 300 men on board.
And everyone else who died. Anyway, another popular theory that I found, this is what I thought you were talking about, for the missing vessels. This is the more of like...
You're talking about rogue waves now.
Yeah, about rogue waves. This is more for the boats. Rogue waves are just, they're not really a rare thing. They're just massive waves that can reach literally over 100 feet. Those of our listeners from other places, it's 30.5 meters. And these things,
How many centimeters?
Yes. And these rogue waves are more than powerful enough to destroy a ship. Like, no issue. I mean, you see those movies like, Life of Pi and all these, like, dramatic movies where they have these huge waves that they ride over and stuff like that.
I've seen it in Assassin's Creed.
But, okay.
And then also in Interstellar.
But you know what I mean? Like, those things, they make them
like
look
a wall of water, like a tsunami, but in the ocean.
Yeah, which is totally not what happens a lot of the time. Like, even
it's called a rogue wave.
Yeah, even during huge storms, the waves don't get that high ever. So they're really rare. People sometimes say it's just a tsunami in formation. Sometimes it's just like it's random things, rogue waves. Anyway, they're really, really powerful, and they'd have no issue toppling a ship. None. There'd be no issue. And also, it would probably, because of all the pressure it'd have, destroy the ship and have no issue with that. So, the reason that's kind of an interesting thing with the Bermuda Triangle is the fact that it's located in an area in the Atlantic where storms from multiple directions converge, making rogue waves more likely because of different wind currents and temperatures and stuff all mixing together. Recipe for disaster.
I have something cooler.
Tell me.
Bro, okay. So you can find this on the Science Channel. There are, I don't know how to say this word, I've heard it both ways, hexagonal or hexagonal.
Yes.
So 6-side clouds with perfectly straight edges that are as large as 20 to 55 miles across.
Aliens.
Right? And you see it in the clouds, like from the satellites. I've seen the pictures. It's absolutely insane.
You just watched Chicken
Go look
Little,
it up.
didn't you?
Okay. They're found at the western end of the Bermuda Triangle, like with Florida.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Okay. But do you know what's so cool about these hexagonal clouds?
They stole them from
They're called
Chicken Little.
freaking air bombs, dude.
Oh.
Because suddenly they send down under that space, that cloud,
my gosh.
it sends down air, just air blasts,
Air bombs.
over 100 miles per hour,
Oh.
and it causes waves over 45 feet tall. So I know that's not a big rogue wave, but it's freaking air just blasting down and destroying everything. And just it spreads outwards. I think it spreads outwards over the sea at like 175 miles per hour, something like that. Just
How do they know? How do they know? About
because
some guys out there like, all right, let me measure
There's
this.
a satellite that they use that measures stuff under clouds, and it's able to look at like wind speed and stuff like that.
And they're like, wow, these clouds are really trying to go hard here.
It's super weird. It's another phenomenon in nature.
I've never once heard of that.
Yep. Science Channel.
I thought
Boom.
you were making a joke about Chicken Little and how when the sky falls, all the pieces are hexagonal
hexagons. No, this is actually like super serious.
No, I'll have to look that up.
Because I've heard of rogue waves. I've never heard of the sky yelling at you.
Dropping bombs.
Sky yelling at you. Because it's not like it doesn't look like a storm because it's clouds and then it just looks like perfect cookie cutter hexagons.
Is it
in
just
the clouds.
casual weather, or is it storming weather, or is it just
Dude,
random?
the ones that I saw were just like white clouds, white fluffy clouds.
That's not fair. Because I get scared when I see cumulonimbus clouds.
It's a cumulonimbus 2000.
But sure, Harry. But now I'm going to be looking at the sky for shapes of kids' games and be like, is that a triangle I see or a hexagon?
Look it up. No, seriously, look it up. It's super interesting.
I'm staying inside today, kids.
Okay, I'll let you do the next one.
You go for it.
Okay.
Because I accidentally just logged out of this thing.
Nice. Well, here's a short one. It doesn't need much explanation. Whirlpools that just suck in ships,
That's
stuff
rough.
like that.
That's rough.
At Dead Man,
happening?
at, what is it? The Pirates of the Caribbean movie where they're all going into a massive hole in the ocean. And then also, I brought up magnetic fields earlier, and some people speculate that there are magnetic fields that compromise the necessary measurements for compasses and other navigation tools to work.
Wouldn't that be something you could easily test?
Maybe, but if you went out and did it, you'd probably go missing. So
It's like somebody did last week. We haven't seen him yet. So
if it leaves no survivors, how can you ever tell what goes on there?
I mean, just send a lot of people to watch the person in front of them, and everybody will be able to tell what happens.
I think they should use that satellite and send out a boat
and just watch it.
and just watch the boat.
I mean,
And if it just goes missing, like all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, okay, well, this is weird.
have you ever sent this is a really dumb question. Have we ever sent submarines there? Because I'd be really
Dude, I
curious
have no
to
idea.
know.
There are like crazy currents there and massive trenches. It's near one of the deepest parts of the ocean, Mariana Trench, right?
Isn't that in Australia?
The Mariana Trench?
Mariana Trench? I have no idea where that is, actually. Looking
In
it
the
up.
Pacific. Where is the Mariana Trench? The map is loading. Anyway, but that would be super interesting to send something out there and just watch it because, you don't need communication
Boy.
to look at that.
It's in the Philippine Sea.
Okay, well, what is that close to?
Australia.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, it's north of Australia, south of Japan.
Oh, wait, what?
You gave me the weirdest look. And I was
Okay,
like,
no, because
boy.
when I saw it on the map, that also, for some reason, that kind of looked like North America. For a
No,
second.
yeah, the map that Jack is showing me is the one where, like, when you look at a map nowadays, usually the North America's on the left.
Or in the
this
middle.
map, it's totally shifted the other way.
Yeah, it's Europe
No, I
and
get
then
you, yeah.
Australia. And it kind of looks like, it's got the same curvature, too.
It does, yeah.
Of North America.
You gave me
and
the
South
weirdest
America.
look, and I was like, boy, my 5th grade teacher did not lie to me about that. I remember.
Anyway, but there are super deep parts and crazy currents, so it could mess up.
It is the deepest
Stuff.
part of the ocean, if I remember correctly.
Mariana Trench, yeah, I'm talking
Yeah,
about Bermuda
yeah.
Triangle again.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I was like, hold up, wait a minute.
So yeah, you don't need communications for a freaking camera. It's just the camera has to work, and I'm pretty sure the methane isn't going to rise to like the space station or the satellite and be like, "I'm about to wreck this whole dude's career."
I'm about to end this whole man's career.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
No, I don't know. That's something that would be really interesting. I would never do it myself, but I dare someone to go into a submarine and go look.
Yeah, dare you to do it? Heck no. Double dog dare you. Man, you got me.
Triple dog. Donut dare you. Then they have to do it.
Oh man.
So there's this other theory that I found. I didn't really want to include it because I thought it was kind of weird. But it's one of those things where I'm like, is this legit or not? But then I looked it up a little bit. It's
Include
kind of
it. Why not, man?
It's called I'm gonna say this wrong. The Sargasso Sea.
Oh, I saw that.
The Sargasso.
I didn't write it down.
Yeah, the Sargasso Sea is an area within the Bermuda Triangle that has no shores but bounded by ocean currents on all sides. This has been the trap of many sailing vessels in the past. Many sailing boats and ships, just doing their thing, are believed to have become completely motionless while passing through this area and later found in derelict conditions with a soul on them. Dense seaweed on water surface and exceptionally slow winds have been the main cause for vessels being motionless.
It's kind of like, so they just get stuck because of currents, like they can't move.
Yeah, it's like a dead zone in the
So
water.
I know how frustrating that is. Except when I went through that, I was in a tiny inflatable kayak in Moab, Utah, and we got into a what is it called? What is it called when there's a lot of little like whirlpools?
Rapids? No, that's white water.
I guess there's another name for it though, and you can get stuck in it because it's just whirlpools, little tiny freaking currents because of rocks right underneath the surface.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I have not a clue what it's called.
It's in like rivers.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Because the water's passing over.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's impossible to go through. So our whole group is ahead of us, right? And they warn us, this is going to be really hard to go through. And so this kid and I are like paddling as hard as we can, and he just gives up. He's like, "Nah." I turn around, I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "We're not going to make it through." I'm like, "So you'd rather just sit here
and die
and just go nowhere?" You do realize there's no alternative to this, right? We are stuck unless we do something.
In like a lake or something?
A river. We were in the Moab.
Oh, right. I was thinking of where this could possibly be.
I gotta find the name for this man. But it was so freaking frustrating because he didn't want to try, and so I was doing it by myself. I'm like, they're not gonna come back and get us.
No, that'd be super.
Because then they're going the opposite way of the river. That's not a thing.
Yeah. For those who still are kind of confused on what we're talking about exactly with...
Did you find the name?
No, I'm talking about the topic I'm talking about. I'll let you do for that one. With this kind of whole ocean currents and stopping kind of thing, no matter where you go in the ocean, except for what we're talking about, there are currents. There are currents that go around, Cape Town and in southern Africa, and they swish up into the Atlantic towards, the UK and stuff like that. And so you can very easily ride ocean currents and wind and get from one place to another because it usually happens. But there's this random place in the Bermuda Triangle where there is nothing around it, and it just is like a dead zone for waves and dead zone for basically travel. Like you get into it and your boats just stop.
Yeah.
Because for some reason the wind isn't strong enough, and there's no ocean currents. And then there's seaweed, which seaweed is, everywhere, but there's very thick seaweed on the surface of the water here, and it just kind of gets in your boat and slows it down even more. So even if there was a slight wind, there was no way you're going to go. And you're in the middle of like the Atlantic at this point, and so there's not really anywhere you can go. And so that's one of the other
I think it's called an eddy.
An eddy?
An eddy. Water moving back upstream caused by a rock or obstacle of some sort.
Huh.
They're called eddies. Yeah, that's what they are. So it's just a bunch of eddies in one spot. So the current's moving forward, but the freaking rocks underneath are causing it to just go backwards. So you're just stuck. It's great. I had to look up river rafting terms.
That's kind of intense, though. I've always heard of those, but I didn't realize how specific they were.
They suck. If you're in a kayak with two people.
I'm waiting for you to drop his name, but I appreciate you're not doing
Dallin.
that. If you watch this,
this was so long ago though. We were like kids and freaking Boy Scouts. It was for like a Boy Scout trip. Anyway, I don't even know his last name. He's my cousin's best friend.
No, you're good. Anyway, the biggest thing, there's so many theories out there. It's one of those things where it's just going to draw more and more attention as time goes by because people, are always intrigued by it.
Yep.
But whether you believe it or not, you can't deny the fact that
stuff happens.
In the last
couple centuries,
20, 30 years, not much has happened with the Bermuda Triangle. Now, this can be because we have better technology or because it was nonsense.
Maybe she got bored.
The Devil's Triangle got bored. I don't want to kill any more people. We got better ways to do that now.
I have a reputation to preserve.
I don't know why that was so...
I don't know. I say random stuff.
I don't know why I thought the devil sounded like that. I have a reputation. I can't... Kermit the Frog.
I've turned around.
This is kind of a nice, refreshing episode because it was so dark and chilling last week.
What are we talking about? Oh, yeah. Tombs and Catacombs.
We got the chills 4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times. I love just joking about stuff,
And now we're
talking about other people's losses.
And now we're having...
over 1,000 people just dying at sea.
And we're having a more lighthearted episode about people dying at sea. Yes. Because it's better than 6 million dead people thrown into pits.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's better, but it's... I don't know if it's better,
it's funnier.
But it's definitely... What? No! Okay. I guess the only last thing I just want to add is just you heard about the Hutchinson effect?
Oh yeah, Josh Hutchinson. He was in Hunger Games.
You said that so fast, and I almost wonder if you had waited for me to say this the whole time.
No, really, I was like Hutchinson, Josh Hutchinson.
Yeah,
really quick word association.
No, it's the electric fog is the Hutchinson effect.
Sounds like a pretty cool band name.
The Hutchinson effect? I'm just kidding.
No,
I know, electric fog. I'm trying to read this and my eyes won't let me. I am so sorry, folks.
You want me to read it?
That's why I'm struggling so hard. Yeah,
Your hands are soaked with your tears.
bro.
Am I reading this part right here?
Yes.
Okay, electronic fog, a Hutchinson effect.
Don't say it like that.
It has been heard several times that ships and aircraft get engulfed in some kind of electric fog, and the fog keeps moving along with the ship or the plane. And eventually, it's so funny to watch you right now, man. You're crying.
I'm
and
dying.
eventually, all the electronic equipment and other instruments start malfunctioning. Then the ships and airplanes either disintegrate or disappear without it. Why are you still laughing? Without a trace. Vancouver-based scientist Josh Hutchinson. What?
No, stop.
John.
You're lying.
John Hutchinson.
Bro, I was about to be like, give me the phone back.
It says John Hutchinson. I read it as Josh for a sec. I was one letter off.
You're like, dang, PETA gets around.
Oh
dude.
my god. Through his experiments has shown occurrence of electric fog that causes some strange phenomena. I thought it said Josh Hutchinson. I swear.
Can we please name the episode Josh Hutchinson Effect?
No.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, folks. This episode has been really painful for me.
High waves and the Hutchinson effect.
I had really bad water time today. The pool was way too chlorinated, so that's why I've been struggling so much this episode. Because every time I'm told to read something, I look at Jack and say, "You go," because
You're chugging along like a champ.
because my eyes decide to say, "You know what? No, we're not gonna work right now." Anyway, so thank you for reading about the Josh Hutchinson effect.
Oh my god.
That was just something interesting I saw as well. I was like, electric fog, and I was like, this sounds like something out of a sci-fi, but no, it's a legit thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there are electric storms that we know about. I mean, it's called lightning, but there's other things about it. Oh man, this episode is going to be like a humorous one, not like a really intense one. It's okay. A lot of people told me they wanted a more lighthearted episode because two dark and demonic ones in a row would not be good. Anyway.
Is that everything? Is that all we got? I was just going through my phone to find the outro.
I'm scared to even look at something because my eyes keep dying.
All right, well, I'll just close this off then.
Wait.
Fine.
Ask me.
What is your Noah nugget of knowledge today, Noah?
It is literally impossible for you to hum while you hold your nose.
I knew that. Your mouth just inflates.
Mm-hmm. And for everyone who's trying right now, you look ridiculous. And that's your known as you do it. And that's your NNN because there's no K in knowledge. Thank you.
Nice. Okay.
It has an N in it too. I'm just kidding. The Noah nugget of knowledge.
Let me close out the episode.
I'm high on chlorine, dude. This is bad.
Stop. Okay. I can't wait to see you play video games later. You can find Studies in Shadow on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and SoundCloud. You can also like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Username Studies in Shadow. Visit our new website. It's going to look better every single week.
It literally will.
StudiesInShadow.com. For all inquiries, you can send a message at studiesinShadow@gmail.com, or you can send us a message on our Facebook or Twitter. Music composed and produced by Jack Rogers and Matthew Gonzalez. This has been Studies in Shadow. Stay safe and don't sink.